Welcome to the Late to Work podcast. I'm not Diamond. That's Wild. I'm Tim. How you
We got.
doing, Wild?
I'm doing good, thanks, man. We got Tim, a Ringus Dingus, here coming at you live, filling in for Diamond today. I love it, man. I love this is great. I'm in my usual spot because I'm essentially the co-pilot on this crazy ride. But now you're running the ship. How does that feel?
It feels all right. I talked to Tim last night. He handed off all the controls, and I'm confident that the pod will be functioning just fine under our stewardship. He's going to the big city, LA. I think, this
Yeah,
might be a little preemptive, but I think he might be inking a deal with Spotify to get this podcast some big advertising bucks. He gave that story about how his son Tim really wanted to go to LA, but I think it's partially a business trip too.
love it. So the real reason for the trip is he's out shopping the pod to Spotify and Zuckerberg and all the other tech
All the
heads
all
out
the
there.
big producers out there. I think he's got lunch with Hannibal Buress,
Yeah,
so we'll see. He might
yeah,
get added to his podcast network.
it's good. He's gonna talk to Bill Simmons. It's gonna be great.
Exactly. There's gonna be big things coming for the pod very soon. That's
That's
all I
good.
can say.
I love it. Well, that's what we
So
need, man. I'm trying to quit my job and put my feet up.
exactly. So what's your ETA? What are things looking
All
like on
right.
the roads today?
Good question. It's gonna be at least 5 over, which I wish wasn't the case, but it just is. I got out. I mean, the roads are a mess right now. It's raining. There's traffic. I got out a little bit late this morning. I took a shower, but I woke up a little bit late, and I was like, I should be going out the door, but I need to take my shower. Plus, today is H's birthday, and
Oh boy.
so it's the birthday. We have plans tonight, but I also knew that she wanted a little something in the morning because she had mentioned that to me before. So I made sure to get her a little card and make her some iced coffee, and I set that up next to her bed, and I left that there before I went out the door.
Okay.
Uh, which I thought I was putting in the effort, but here I am. I'm late.
Okay. Well, were you
Yeah.
supposed to wake her up before you left?
I did. I gave her. I woke her up and I gave her a little kiss goodbye,
Okay, perfect.
and so I think I'm doing the thing. I am not always great with birthdays. I've been yelled at in the past, so I'm trying to step it up.
I'm not a birthday guy either. I never know
Mm,
what to get for anybody. I
yeah.
always kind of, especially like for me, the whole year is front loaded. Like it basically starts with Christmas, and then it goes into birthdays in January, February,
Oh
birthdays
my
in
god.
March. Then it rolls into like Mother's Day, more birthdays in May,
Yep.
then it rolls into
Yep.
Father's Day, and it's just this endless 4 or 5 months of like having to remember birthdays and presents and all this type of stuff. And I don't do a very good job at it. So
No.
I
Oof.
and yeah.
Yeah, that's a real gauntlet.
Yeah.
That's a
Oh, it
that's a gauntlet
stinks.
you got. I get a summer gauntlet where it's like most of my family members have birthdays around this time of year. It's like May, June, July.
Okay.
Friends, family
Okay.
members, a lot of birthdays, um, which is normally fine. It just means that like, yeah, I'm gonna be buying a lot of shit, and my calendar is gonna be booked
Yeah.
from like May to July. There's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's rough. And especially it's like, oh God, it's Mother's Day. Like, wasn't it your birthday 3 weeks ago? What's
I
going on?
know, right? And then you start picking and choosing. It's like I don't need to do the Mother's Day thing, but then
It's like, yeah, can we reschedule this for October when it's a little less busy? Like
I
who
know, like
who
I
picked the
don't.
date for this?
I got to take some of these off the calendar, but it's like if you don't do it, then you're an asshole, and it's like, all right, I gotta fucking do it here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
How
and no, you
can
go,
we
you go.
yeah. Can we get a dengue update? How's the dengue?
Dengue watch day 15. I don't. I'm doing better. I'm doing
Okay.
better. There is still a bit of a visible rash, and just feeling around right now. Yeah, it's still there. Slight itch, but it's mostly going away. I think it's clearing up. I also explained the dengue fever story to some people in Philly the other day, and they were like, none of the symptoms you listed have to do with. Well, like you don't have any of the symptoms of dengue fever, so why do you think you have dengue fever? And it made me rethink the whole thing for a second. Uh,
Okay.
except for the except because they were like, you didn't even have a fever, and I was like, that's a good point.
Okay. Okay.
So
So
no, but I
basically
do have.
you saw an
Yeah.
advertisement on TV that convinced you had the trendy new disease and you've been going
Yeah.
around telling everybody you have it.
Well, it was a poster that I saw in
Okay,
the
even
airport.
worse. Even worse.
No, I have a rash, and when I looked up pictures of dengue rash, it looked pretty similar. So that was pretty much it. Otherwise, I just have a mysterious rash that I've never
I
had
mean, you
before.
might have a mild case. I feel like we can't ignore the evidence of a swarm of mosquitoes in the bathroom
Yes,
at your hotel.
exactly.
I feel like that's undeniable evidence of some type of mosquito shenanigans.
Yep, yep. So
Um,
they gave me something.
okay.
Yeah.
Now I have a story about a trendy vacation disease.
Okay.
Um, Me in 2015, me and Tim went to South Korea. It was a Tim's trip,
Nice.
and at that time, do you remember MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome?
Man, vaguely, I feel like that came out in the midst of like a lot of these like random diseases.
Yep, yep. I mean,
Yeah.
the obviously the big one's COVID, but they were always dropping new diseases, and
Yeah.
Um, now Southeast Asia had SARS in the early 2000s that
Yep.
was actually kind of scary over there, and they they had posters up for MERS in some of
Mm.
the areas that we were in, and us being a bunch of tourists who these diseases never happened to. We're like, oh, MERS, that's funny. Another one of these trendy diseases that nobody ever gets,
Right.
and we have a picture
And
of
it's like an
us.
anagram almost
Yes,
of yeah. It's just
yeah,
funny. Yeah.
and we have a picture of us standing in front of this sign that says Jeju Island is a MERS-free zone. All
Yeah.
smiling, laughing, whatever. On the last day of our trip, me and Tim were flying home to the U.S., and Tim was going to China to visit his girlfriend Tim, and he woke up that morning sick as a dog. He looked like he was on his last legs. And Tim ended up getting on that plane to China, going over to China, ended up getting treated for being horribly, horribly sick in China. He says it's the sickest he's ever been in his
Oh my
life.
god.
Um, and I got a feeling that might have been some MERS, Glenn. Again, it's like I don't have
Yeah.
any evidence, but I saw a poster telling me to be careful,
Yep.
and we didn't take it very seriously.
That sounds like MERS. Knowing nothing on the subject,
It sounds like MERS, doesn't it?
I'm gonna say pretty confidently that was MERS.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was MERS.
Yeah, that's great. Are
Yeah,
you have an ETA this morning? What are you up to?
I'm working from home today.
Nice.
I got a series of items to take care of today. I don't want to go into too much detail right now,
Mm.
but the VPN for work has been down for over a month because of the short story is just stupidity, IT issues,
Okay.
etc. And it's finally back up, and I'm working from home today. Nobody
Mm.
can stop me.
Good.
So
Good.
so I do not have an ETA, although maybe just to spice things up, I'll be 5 over with you in
Five
solidarity.
over. Yes, I love it. Five over to the work from home. That's good.
Exactly. So
Which,
I
yeah,
gotta take the dog's been going to dog daycare while we're at work. Basically, she just goes to a place and plays with a ton of other dogs. It seems
mm,
like she loves it. Once she realizes where we're going, she gets super excited and
nice.
trots in and is very happy to walk off to the back with all the doggies.
Mm, love it.
So
Love it.
so she's good. It's better than leaving her home for 9 hours a day
Mm,
because she's a 6-month-old puppy. So
yeah.
we're trying to not make her insane by just starting off life by living in an empty house forever.
That's good, man. You're making good moves. Sounds like you're a good dog dad.
Yeah, yeah, and
That's
she
good.
loves it. She comes home, she's pooped, she eats her dinner, and she lays down. She's tired from playing with dogs all day, so
that's great.
I think it's
Uh,
working well.
I just take care of a cat at home, and sometimes I feel so proud when I have like a happy cat that's like well fed and taken care of,
Yeah,
and then I'll tell myself even it's like people complain about having a kid. It's not that hard.
yeah, yeah. You just got to make sure all the meters are full, right? Like you gotta make sure food meter's full, sleep meter's full, play meter's full. There's a poop and pee meter
Mm,
that actually have to be empty.
yeah.
There's a H2O meter, oxygen meter. There's like probably under 10 meters that you have to really be paying attention to. It's not
Yeah.
that big a deal.
That's a good way of thinking about it. That's actually really good. And I feel like you could also think about I don't know, not just raising a kid or a pet, but like taking care of a home or a car or it's just
Oh
like you
yeah,
got it
yeah,
you
yeah. It's just
it-
it's just the series of meters that you're balancing.
yeah.
There's people out there, they're playing StarCraft going, kid sounds like so much work. And it's like you're freaking talking about the optimal way to arrange your barracks so that your guys can harvest Vespine gas. You're already raising a kid. You just don't know it yet.
You're already raising a kid. That's good, man. No, it is about the meters and the levels and if you take your eye off the meters for a minute, everything can go haywire, but just
Exactly.
gotta
Exactly.
keep them
It's
full.
it's this new video game isn't realistic enough. There's not enough meters. Well, I got a game for you with plenty of meters. Now,
Good,
here's the
man.
thing, Glenn. There are arbitrary meters that you could add to your life if you want to increase the difficulty. For example, the nicotine meter, or the caffeine meter, or the uh, what else? I don't know. There's there.
A lot. I mean, you can fill in the blank with a lot of stuff. It's funny. I think in some ways, I've gotten rid of certain meters in my life, but then I've added other meters like that are all financial. So there's like a lot of financial meters that I'm juggling these days. And when I was younger, I think I was more concerned with filling up like I want to go out and see everybody for X amount of hours a day or a week and just like do all the stuff. And now I'm like, I can do less of the stuff, but like my sleep meter is more important. It's
Sleep meter is definitely high priority.
my bank account meter has gotten very important.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say when the sleep meter is low, that probably has the biggest impact on how
Yeah.
good I feel in a normal day.
Yeah. I look back sometimes and like the first couple years I was in Philly, I almost didn't care about how much money I had.
Yep.
Like I really didn't. And it was like if I knew that I could end the week with $50 in my bank account, I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm gonna run around the city and do whatever the hell I want because there's gonna be 2 cents left in my bank.
Yep.
And I was a lot more concerned with fill in the alcohol meter, fill in the social meter, and now it's like
Those are great meters. Those are great meters, by the way. Let's
right.
not discount how good those meters are.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think for some people, it's not to get too far off. It's like there's the sex drive meter, which I don't know if that goes up or down in a relationship. That's a different question. But there is this thing like when you're not in a relationship, it's like you're very concerned about like being with someone or like ooh, I'm gonna go on a date and get a kiss, and like that's an important meter. But then you stop worrying about that stuff, and then it's like, huh, this game just got a little bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we got our bank accounts on. You saving for anything big?
Oh
You just trying to
God.
keep the ship floating?
Well, I was saving for my honeymoon trip, and most of the money just went out the window for that.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Well, it sounds like you were able to save for your honeymoon
yeah,
and go do it. So that's good.
yeah, that was a success. So H and I had both saved a lot, pretty much like immediately after our wedding. It was like we had our wedding, paid that off, and then we started saving for this trip. At least I did, and saving my PTO, which I burned, all that. So we're basically starting from zero now with our financials, and we're like, let's try to save and be more practical so that we can just like take care of important shit like going to the doctor and taking care of our cars and that stuff that we've been neglecting. So yeah, the financial meter is low right now. I think I lost you. Maybe some connection issues.
All right, Glenn, can you tell us the car? Can you tell us
Mm.
what's going on with your current car status? I know you were
Well,
in need of a fix. How's the current fix holding up? Where
okay.
it sounds like he just poured some liquid into your car.
That was it. I had to bring my car to the shop like 3 times. And at the end of the day, I think the guy just like tightened some nuts and bolts and then poured coolant into the radiator. Now, there was a leak. That was the main thing. I think going back 4 months ago, there was a leak in like the circulation or filtration system, and it was causing all sorts of problems. But now everything's running all right. And it might just be like every 2 months, I got to pour coolant into the radiator, which I think I can figure out.
Okay.
The
Now here's the
Yeah,
thing. I don't think it's normal to have to pour coolant into the radiator. Wouldn't that say to you that there's a leak that he hasn't fixed?
it sounds like it.
Okay.
I don't know enough about that. I don't. But what was it? A week ago, he did the radiator coolant trick, and it's been good ever since. I
I
think the meters. I think the meters is full.
I think you're leaking, Glenn. I think you're leaking. I think you've got a debuff on your car where the coolant meter is slowly going down. I
Mm.
think your mechanic knows that there's something in there that he didn't fix or he doesn't feel like fixing. And since you spent all that money, it probably should be fixed. And the slap a band-aid on it is to just pour a gallon of coolant in there every so often so he doesn't have to admit that he messed up or do extra work for you without getting paid. I
It
think
it
that's what's
could
happening.
be it could be the case. My attitude, right? So this vehicle might not be 100% right now, but my attitude is this car is almost 20 years old,
Okay. Okay.
and I think I'm just gonna make sure it's running until we run into like a serious problem that I can't fix, or I throw in the towel and then we talk about selling it. That's where I'm at. But
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's that's good, Glenn. How's your return to work been? How's your boss been treating you now that you're done with your honeymoon and
Fine. I don't know if I said this on the pod, but it was like the attitude from my boss literally the same day that I was back. So I get back from my honeymoon. We're chit chatting. He's like, "Tell me about your trip. Show me your pictures. That's great." And it was like, let's just, today's going to be a nice, fun, easy day.
yeah.
Uh, and then it was like by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm having a one-on-one with my boss, and he's like, "All right, playtime's over.
My
Uh,
God.
you got to make up for lost time." That was honestly
Jeez.
that was the vibe that he gave me.
Like lost time as in the 5 minutes that you were late, or lost time
No,
as in like, you know, I've been out of the office for a month and I gotta talk to you about the latest trends in sports betting.
no, not that. No, it was like, okay, I was gone for a week and a half. My productivity obviously didn't move, but then it's like I think he was maybe there is a sense of like, okay, the numbers in the office are all low. You know
Right.
what I mean? So it's like everybody's numbers are down. So he's not in a good mood. And then he's telling me, like, well, now you got to ramp it up because your numbers are here and they got to be here. And in my head, I'm like, dude, I'm doing fine. My numbers comparatively are actually good. Get
Yeah.
off my back. But
I
he's like, we need to ramp it up.
I feel like sales manning, recruiting, these talking guy kind of jobs that you and Diamond have.
Hmm.
I feel like as long as you're provided with a supply of people to talk to and you're not appearing as a total maniac on the phone when you're talking to them, like if you're if you're offering them something good and you're presenting it like a normal person, most of the other factors are like outside of your control. And
Yes.
management saying to you, "Hey, you got to ramp it up," like doesn't really have any connection to like what
Mm.
you're actually doing on a day to day.
There's a lot of truth in that. The only thing we can really control is like our outreach and conversations.
Yeah.
The really where the needle can swing is like, hey, we got somebody that wants to talk or communicate. Please have a good conversation with them so that they buy what we're selling.
Right. Right.
That's really where we come into play. Then there's like the office work, which we have to stay on top of, and yada yada. But
Right.
the numbers fluctuating wildly, 90% of that stuff is out of our control.
Right. And now
That is
like
because, like, hey, I got a candidate into a hospital, but then the hospital canceled half their contracts because it turned out they didn't need those people. Well,
right.
I couldn't do anything about that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Glenn, I'm gonna need you to step it up. You should
Yep. I got to
go.
send out 1,000 emails. Yeah.
I'm gonna need you to step it up. Yeah, I mean that type of stuff is maddening, and I mean
Mm.
any job has variables that are outside of your control that somehow someone somewhere expects you to be able to control or account for somehow.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do. Um,
100%. And it's funny because the management looks down, at least like from tier to tier. So like my manager looks at me and the recruiters and he says, "How come you guys aren't more productive?" But it's like the problem is over your head. The
yes,
problem is like
yes,
2 tiers above you,
exactly,
but you
exactly.
can't do anything about it.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
there's a, but here's what happens, Glenn. There's a guy 2 tiers above him texting the guy below him saying, "Where's my money?" And then that guy
Right.
texts your boss and says, "Where's my money?" And then your boss says, "Geez, I don't know where his money is." And then
Yeah.
he goes to you and he says, "Glenn, where's my money?" And
Mm-hmm.
and you say, "Look, you have me sitting in this office selling hospital janitorial jobs, cleaning toilets in Kansas City, Missouri for $7.25 an hour. Have you thought about the fact that maybe the what you're selling people don't want?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's
Right.
not a decision that either of you have any influence over. So,
It's so funny, man. The Yeah, exactly. It's like, what's the market? What are the jobs we're talking about? Do people, the rates, all these questions, and then my boss's answer is like, you got to send out 50 more emails.
right,
All
right.
right, dude. That's going to solve it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Yeah.
if they, now there's going to be 50 people ignoring my emails instead of 10.
Yeah, right. Right.
Who
Oh
are
my
you sending
God.
emails to? Like, do you have a system that just has
Yeah.
people in it and you're just blasting emails?
That's part of it. I don't want to get too into the weeds, but
Sure, sure.
most of my success, or really what my job is contacting people that have expressed interest in our jobs, yada yada. It could be they followed up on Indeed, they just responded to an email, whatever. We get like a part of their profile in the system, and then it's my job to reach out and like get the rest of the profile.
Right,
Now, the real success is when we have someone who like is a legitimate contract worker and they're like just waiting for their next job, and then it's easy peasy. But that's maybe 10% of the people in the system.
right, right.
Yeah.
Now I know like I've been looking at some job listings, and I've had some recruiters reach out to me.
Mm.
They've reached out with jobs that are some of them relevant to me, some of them very not relevant to me. And for the jobs that are not relevant or just not paying well enough, even though you've sent me an email and even though you've got me on the phone, there is literally nothing you could say to me to get me to take that job.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
and it just,
But that's
yeah, yeah,
yeah, that for sure. But that's where the bait and switch comes in.
yep.
You know about the bait and switch?
Well, I've been getting bait and switched in varying degrees all my life, Glenn, so I know a little bit about the bait and switch.
So you know how it goes. Sometimes, yes, a recruiter might send something out and it's like, this is not what I want at all. But if you engage in conversation, then it's like, well, we also have this.
Yeah.
Is this better? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
So
yeah.
now cleaning toilets in Kansas City isn't what you want. But how about cleaning toilets in St. Paul? Would that be appealing? Now, the minimum wage in St. Paul is 75 cents an hour higher, so I think you may find this deal very appealing.
Gotta sweet talk them, and that's
Exactly.
that's where I come in. But
Uh,
let's switch gears a little bit before we
sure.
both got to bounce.
Sure.
Um, so you mentioned you maybe are looking for a new job. I know that your job has gotten a little bit worse as far as like comfort level lately.
Sure.
Yeah, they're dragging you back into the office and
I'll,
yada yada.
you want me to talk about my comfort level, Glenn?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So when I started my job, it was 1 day a week in the office, the rest remote. And this was during, it was still COVID times, basically. And since then, they've ramped us back up to 5 days a week in the office. And, I wouldn't mind that if I felt like what I was doing like mattered or was like let's say gonna produce a resume that was attractive to my future job prospects, etc. I'm
Okay.
basically going in doing the same old and for reasons I'm not gonna get into too much detail. The structure of management, sort of what we talked about, where the problems are identified, the decisions have to be made 2 to 3 rungs of management above me, and that's not what I'm getting paid to do. So there's all these loose ends that are just in forever unresolved territory, and I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of like if I was home, who cares? I'll work from home, I'll send my emails, I'll do my job, whatever. But I'm in the office being faced with this all day long. I'm just sick of it.
Yeah.
Um and never mind the fact that like the job was remote and then went back to the office. Which I would look at as like a loss of benefits basically. Like
Yeah.
I'm taking a pay cut from that. Um
Exactly. It's funny how that's never addressed properly.
no, no.
It's like everyone's like, "Oh, you're too lazy to go into the office." It's like, "No, you're now asking me to pay for commute and transportation."
And
So yes,
time. The big thing to me
yes.
is the time. The
Well,
time is the worst
the
thing.
number one thing is time, 100%. But then it's like like you said, it is a smaller paycheck because now there's a commuting expense.
Yes. I mean, and even if it was drastic, like really drastic, if they said to me, "You come into the office every day, we'll give you a 10% pay raise for every day a week you commit to coming into the office," I would still stay home.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Yep.
if it like literally there was a actual conversion to dollars, I would still work from home because
Yeah.
it's that much better.
Yep. Yep.
Um, Now I recognize the fact that I'm a big stinky white collar office man who in reality has very little to actually be complaining about, but it is kind of stinky to have a benefit and then have it taken away. Is
Yes.
kind of my main point here.
Well, that's funny. There is a phrase for that. There's a concept, I think it's called loss aversion. We
Okay.
get, as humans, we get more ticked off when we have something and it gets taken away than if you were to compare what's the feeling of receiving the thing for the first time.
Right. Right.
If I gave you $10, you'd be like, "Oh, thanks for $10." But if someone reached into your pocket and took $10 away, you would want to strangle them.
Yeah. Mom took away the
Yeah.
damn N64.
Say again.
Mom took away the N64, and I'm not happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel so much better going to sleep on a night when I know I get to work from home the next day because
Yes.
I'm not worried about getting enough sleep. I'm not thinking about the commute in the morning. I'm just gonna wake up, turn on my computer, and start working. And there's nothing
Mhm.
else that needs to happen. It's no big deal,
It
you know?
everything.
Yes,
When I get to work from home, when I know that the following day is work from home, that's like, hey, you know what? I get to do some more chores at the house, cook a meal, have a relaxing dinner with my wife, watch a little bit more TV, maybe watch a movie and not worry about it because I get a normal rest and can wake up at a normal time. Whereas, like, if I have to drive to work the next morning, it's like, well, now I'm in a rush because I can't do shit, you know?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
gotta tell you, the commute in the car, I did a car commute for a while, like when I started working after college. It was terrible. Even
Mm,
even if even without traffic, just driving an hour every day to get to work really sucked. And then when there was
yeah.
traffic, it was like I was on my all my meters were empty by the time I got home. Let's put it that way.
Right. Yep. A heavy traffic day will make you rethink everything in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. At least now I walk to the train. So I walk to the train, take the train into the city, walk to the office. We're all good. The
Yeah.
just the amount of stress that I don't experience by not having to do that commute driving is very nice. I would
Mm,
highly recommend a non-driving or at least a minimal driving commute
mm,
if you ever have the option. Just because it's like, I don't know. It's
yeah.
you got to be awake, you got to be active. Your brain is thinking the whole time you're on the road. You got to keep that
Yeah.
damn car from killing you or anyone else.
Absolutely.
It's a very active process, whereas like walking and being on the train is a very passive process, and your brain can kind of turn off and rest.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. In a few months, knock on wood, probably let's say 6 months from now, I might be looking for a new job, or at least looking around, seeing what's available. And obviously, something that I'm gonna look for is a smaller commute. If I could get something closer to home, where it's like a 10-15 minute commute, or maybe something where I just hop on the train or whatever,
Yeah.
would be wonderful.
Have you thought about recruiting yourself to a new job across the
It
street from your home?
I have not really started looking into it. So there's a few factors that go into it. I do kind of like where I'm at with my job right now, all things considered. So I'm giving myself until the end of the summer or like early fall, and then to kind of like regauge
Okay.
and maybe like put myself out there.
Got it. You got your resume up to date?
It's not totally up to date. I got to do that. Take me probably a couple hours to just update that thing.
Yeah. The thing I think is that for sales positions, you really want to have a lot of numbers on there to show them you're a big sales dog who's made an impact. Like while you get time at the office, go through, try to come up with rough numbers of like how many deals you've closed, how many people you talk to every day. What Just like
Mm-hmm.
come up with a bunch of numbers that and just massage them into being as impressive as possible and put those on your resume. I think
That's
that'll
smart.
make a big difference for you.
Just get some random percentages on there, and
Yeah. And
oh,
then
yeah.
you're going to have to talk to the recruiter who recruits recruiters in order to get a new job. So,
Yep.
you're already in the mind space of a guy who is looking at resumes and knows what you like to see. So, um
It's gonna be a done deal, no brainer.
yeah, yeah.
Easy. No, it's good. I will say though, last thing, obviously, my commute now does kind of suck. Doing this pod has been a very nice little treat in the morning, so that has made things a lot better.
It is very
Uh,
nice to have a nice little pod before work to get a
yeah.
chat in. I definitely feel better if I chat with some friends before work, which isn't always
Mm,
possible, but
right.
it gives me a little more pep in my step and makes the commute much more bearable as well.
Love it. Love it. Hey, this was good stuff. Obviously, good reconnecting with you. I think this was our first time back on the airwaves in quite some time.
Oh, it's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah,
We might have to do a movie episode next week, Glenn.
I was thinking about that. We really could. Yeah, this was good. This was good. All right. Well, it's 8:05, so you got to go, and I'm about to pull into the parking lot. So we're five over.
Okay, great. Let's plan to do another one tomorrow.
Sounds good. I'll be
All
there.
right. Have a good day.
Man, see ya later.